visit them in Upper Dumont.
Hofade, this is Kayla from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated team in Guam and the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Cocoa Coffee Company mugs are now here. Show pride for your island as you enjoy your delicious Circle K coffee. Each generously sized 16-ounce mug is etched with Guam-inspired images like Chief Gadao, Serena, Two Lovers, and many more. The Cocoa Coffee Company mug collection is available for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Get yours today and collect them all. Exclusively available at Circle K locations. A portion of the proceeds go toward the Cocoa Bird Recovery Program.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Every day, Tall Tale starts out with a respectful reading of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, part of the Bill of Rights, part of the lodestar that guides the direction of Tall Tales every day. The U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, individual freedom, individual rights, patriotism, recognition that the United States is indeed the exceptional country, perhaps the greatest country. In fact, no perhaps about it, the greatest country ever on the face of the earth. And we're here to celebrate that every day, looking out for those who would try to spoil it, take it away from us, change it, whatever, seeing the Second Amendment as a bulwark against those folks with those bad intentions. As I go into the program, I oftentimes have a writing from some other place dealing with the Second Amendment. Today is no exception. And as you may know, the Supreme Court crossed an important bridge here the other day when it ruled on the famous New York case, the name of which I don't happen to have in front of me right now, but it was the case that it was the case where New York City had a rule that people who own guns could keep them in their houses but couldn't take them anywhere outside their houses except to 5 shooting ranges. Couldn't take them outside the city even. And a gun rights group filed suit in New York. The United States District Court for the Southern District of Court upheld the statute. The Second Circuit of Appeals upheld the District Court. The gun rights group applied for a writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. It was granted, and the Supreme Court decided it was moot. So there's some interesting stuff in this little article. I'll spend a little time with it. The Supreme Court decision declining to rule in a New York gun case initially seems like a non-event. The majority held that the case had been rendered moot when the city repealed the offending restriction on gun rights. But the Supreme Court's 3 most conservative justices, Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas, screamed foul. A close look at their dissenting opinion highlights the court's impending expansion of gun rights. There they accused the majority, which included their usual allies, Brett Kavanaugh and Chief Justice John Roberts, of being taken in by a legal sleight of hand. They also announced their support for a very broad reading of the Second Amendment and argued that the New York law was unconstitutional. Advocates of gun control may claim victory because the court did not reach the merits of the New York case. But the issue that divided the court's conservative justices, not whether to radically expand the protections of the Second Amendment, but when and how to do it. Like the effort to prohibit abortion, the effort to expand gun rights, even during the health and economic crisis caused by the Wuhan virus, is very much alive and well. The case was brought by the New York State Rifle and Gun Association, which claimed that an ordinance prohibiting licensed gun owners from transporting their guns out of the city, for example, to shooting ranges or second homes, violated the Second Amendment's right guaranteed of a right to bear arms. It also claimed that it violated the Commerce Clause as well as the right to travel. The case had seemed destined to be the most important gun rights in a decade. Moreover, it looked like it would be the vehicle for the court to strictly limit gun regulations. This is what everybody was hoping for when this case went to the Supreme Court. In an effort to ward off the outcome, New York City repealed the offending regulation in June. Not surprisingly, the case attracted considerable attention from gun rights enthusiasts, as well as advocates of strict gun control, and a group of liberal senators filed a strident friend of the court brief asking the court to dismiss the case. Their brief offered broad and unprecedented indictment of the court's conservative majority and accused the 5 justices appointed by Republican presidents, the Chief Justice and Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas, of pursuing a political project and being in league with the National Rifle Association and other pro-gun groups. Now, this was a brief filed by some Democrat senators talking about separation of powers, right? Yeah. In the past, conservative justices and their allies went out of their way to assure citizens that they were not partisans in judicial robes. I never believed that. Reacting to the Warren Court's string of liberal decisions, they regularly criticized so-called judicial activism and warned about the tendency of judges to play an expansive role in addressing controversial cultural and social issues, or to legislate from the bench, which is exactly what we've seen over the last several years, where the court found a right of privacy in the Bill of Rights, and that right of privacy allowed Herman to marry Henry. The conservative justices supported a modest role for the court, strict construction of law, and originalism. They also praised what Yale law professor Alexander Bickel once famously called the passive virtues. Noting that the Supreme Court justices are appointed rather than elected, Bickel argued that they should interfere as little as possible in the democratic political process and zealously guard the court's legitimacy in the face of what he labeled a counter-majoritarian difficulty. He urged judges to avoid involving themselves in political questions by invoking doctrines like the one the court used yesterday. That is mootness. And I agree. I agree that the Supreme Court made the right decision by saying that that case was moot because in New York, the new city of New York, in a judicial sleight of hand, repealed the offending city ordinance. During his confirmation process, Chief Justice Roberts allied himself with this brand of legal conservatism. He called on justices to pay particular attention to the court's institutional standing and legitimacy. He joined the court majority in refusing to use the New York case to reach new judgments about the Second Amendment. And I agree with that. His restraint is notable, but it may be more exceptional than a guide to future court attitudes toward expansion of Second Amendment rights. The dissenting opinion authored by Justice Alito may in fact give a better indication of the future of gun rights. It eschewed judicial modesty and argued that the fact that New York City had given those who brought the case exactly what they wanted was of no great significance. Alito also insisted that because there were remedies that the plaintiffs might seek or might get, if the court reached the merits, it was not really moot. Alito brazenly claimed that judges only should refuse to rule on the merits if it's impossible for a court to grant any effectual relief. He accused New York of manufacturing mootness in order to evade review, which is exactly what they did, and that's the way the system is set up, and warned that similar things might happen on other issues near and dear to the court's conservative justices. To make sure that his message was absolutely clear, Alito openly speculated about what states might do to manufacture mootness in cases involving abortion and reproductive rights, which is the other side of the coin from gun rights. I've talked before about dog whistle politics. Whenever you hear the word abortion, it's necessary for conservatives' ears to perk up, and they got to start paying attention because that's a key issue. But if conservatives are sitting around and talking about sighting in their new semi-automatic rifle, that's just conservatives talking. But if a lefty hears it, if a liberal Democrat hears it, their ears have to perk up because that's the dog whistle for them. Finally, Alito took the unusual step of announcing how he would have ruled on the merits of the New York gun regulation. As he put it, the city ordinance violated the Second Amendment. This is not a close question. While Supreme Court precedent recognizes the right of governments to regulate aspects of gun possession and use, including places where guns may be legally transported or possessed, Alito found the city's public safety arguments weak on their face, were not substantiated in any way, and were accepted below with no serious probing. But in the end, it is not only Alito's vigorous dissent that should be a warning to gun regulation supporters. That warning is also found in Justice Kavanaugh's concurrence in the court's decision, where he intimated that there would be a bright future for supporters of gun rights. While agreeing that the New York case was moot, he signaled his sympathy for Alito's desire to aggressively scrutinize regulation of guns. Additionally, Kavanaugh joined Alito in criticizing federal and state courts for failing to vigorously protect gun rights. He went out of his way to remind his readers that the court's judicial conservatives would get another chance to expand gun rights soon, perhaps in one of the several Second Amendment cases with petitions for certiorari now pending before the court. There are 12 of them, and I went through them yesterday at the beginning of the program. Okay, this editorial says the Supreme Court was right to turn aside the New York case. I agree. But when a day of reckoning next comes, the national debate about gun control, the court's conservative bloc has shown that it will be even more determined to have its way. This is not right. And I've been as critical of the Supreme Court as just about anybody, and I have lamented about the phenomenon where people don't agree with the reasoning or don't even understand the reasoning, but they start out with a result, and if they like the result, then they work backwards and say, yeah, the Supreme Court was good. I've been fond of describing the Supreme Court as 9 politicians in black robes. I should probably say 8, because I don't think that fits Justice Thomas very well. But the others, yeah, where The Chief Justice bent over backwards to figure out some way to sustain Obamacare by calling it a tax, when even the Obama side of the argument went out of their way to tell you it wasn't a tax. And, of course, we can never forget the 2000 election where George Bush got a majority of the votes. Did you know that, Real Joe Cruz?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, George Bush got a majority of the votes. He got 5 and Al Gore got 4.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Supreme Court should have never even stuck its nose in that case, but they did, and they brought great disrespect to the court. And then, of course, I've lamented about the super reading powers of the Supreme Court, where they were able to find a right of privacy somewhere in the Constitution, even though my search feature and my word processor can't find it. They found it in the penumbra of the Bill of Rights, and based on that right of privacy, they finally decided that Herman, in fact, has a constitutional right to marry Henry. That they say that a marriage can consist of 2 people of the same sex, which seems kind of wasteful now that we have so many sexes, doesn't it, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
I wonder how many we're up to now, 16 or 17?
I hear it's more than that.
Probably
sir.
more than that.
And even more in Canada.
Yeah, and it's kind of, yeah. And it's kind of like the Wuhan virus. The number changes every day, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Second Amendment for today. I did not go along with Mr. Justice Scalia's opinion in Heller versus District of Columbia versus Heller, which held that people in the District of Columbia had a right to keep firearms in their houses, followed by McDonald versus Chicago, which applied the same decision to the states. And I've accused, may he rest in peace, Justice Scalia, of being legally blind, because if you put him in front of an eye chart and the letters on the eye chart were M-I-L-I-T-I-A, Scalia would have been declared blind because he obviously couldn't read that word. So I had to play against, I've played against type on that. I want citizens to have a right to keep and bear arms. I think it's good for the country, but I don't think that's what the Second Amendment says. However, the highest court in the land has said that's what it says. I like the result. I read the Second Amendment at the beginning of every program. Let's go on to Demi Ikutni. Okay, so again, this is the we saw a black swan or a unicorn yesterday because the Daily News actually had an editorial that dealt with Guam. The one it's kind of like winning the Powerball lottery when
Pretty
that
amazing.
happens. Like, say again?
Pretty amazing, sir.
It was. It really was. But they're back. They're back in the groove today. So as usual, they're running boilerplate from the USA Today editorial board, and I'll just read a couple things, and you can see that this is their typical editorial. The title of the editorial is "Thrown to the Wolves," and the beginning of the first sentence in the second the second paragraph reads, "What have President Donald Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell done in response? They've stirred up a ruckus by suggesting that states go through bankruptcy rather than get bailed out with federal aid." So it's the same old thing. Let's beat up on the Republicans, especially Donald Trump. It hardly bears any more attention than that. I go from there to the Post, and I can tell you this. I don't have to go any farther. I'm going to award the Blue Star right now. I'm going to be like I'm going to be like Justice Alito on the Supreme Court. I'm going to rule on the merits before the matter is even properly before me. And again, the editorial starts out with these words, this COVID-19 crisis. And I have to alert you to the fact that even the real Joe Cruz talks in terms of the Wuhan virus. We don't play this politically correct game of COVID-19. It's the Wuhan virus. That's where it came from. That's who did it. That's what we call it. So if I'm reading somebody else's stuff and they use the wrong terms, I fix it for them. In this Wuhan virus crisis, one of the most important things people want to hear is when the federal funds for direct assistance for taxpayers as well as the unemployment benefits will flow on Guam. These are among the main reasons why hundreds of residents watch the governor's near daily press briefings. People also want officials held accountable for how public funds are being spent in this public health emergency. So when a Wuhan virus recovery press briefing was held Thursday afternoon, any reporter would be expected to ask for an update on the economic relief programs, the one that the federal government is providing for Guam, but are left to the local government to administer. When a reporter's question along these lines was raised, that reporter was shut down. This is particularly alarming because it's not something any decent governor would be expected to censor. Let me repeat that sentence. This was particularly alarming because it's not something any decent government would be expected to censor. What are the key words in that sentence, Real Joe Cruz?
Decent and government.
Yeah, you got it. When the public is literally hungry because private sector paychecks have dried up, GovGuam is expected to at least give the public an update on when financial relief will arrive or what's causing the holdup and what's being done about the holdup. Another valid question was, why in the world did the governor's chief of staff, Tony Babalta, deem it okay to stay in the Pacific Resort and Spa even for a night because he wasn't feeling well, when the facility is supposed to be used for travelers held under 14-day quarantine? Not to mention, what is his role in the government's Wuhan virus recovery efforts? If there are credible answers to these questions, the more the administration should be eager to answer. Censorship on questions here at home in a land that makes it a point to claim this is where America's day begins, hints of deeper trouble among public officials. Deeper trouble among, I would rephrase that a little bit. Hints of deeper trouble on the 19th floor. And by the way, stay tuned because we've got another promo for that new TTTV program, The 19th Floor, coming up right after the big halftime show. You won't want to miss it. Censorship questions here at home in a land that makes it a point to claim this is where America's day begins, hints of deeper trouble among public officials who are supposed to be steering us through these rough economic times. Will they have the caliber of strength that can guide us through, or will they continue to sidestep accountability for lack of clear answers? I know the answer to that one already, because they keep doing it. The first, and the real indicator was the first thing that the governor did was gut the open government law. We've got a terrible problem with this coronavirus. You know, it's a death-dealing virus. It's a bad disease. We got to do something. Let's gut the open government law. That'll work really well to fix it. Okay, so the Blue Star goes to the Post today. Very good editorial. And yeah, let's take a break.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
GRMC's cardiology department treats most complex heart problems. In our catheterization lab, cardiologists use imaging equipment to treat clogged arteries that can cause heart attacks or heart failure. We perform balloon angioplasty, stenting, and other life-saving cardiac procedures. If you suffer from a heart condition, have your provider refer you to GRMC's cardiology clinic at 645-5500. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, making sure you actually own the property you think you just bought.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So I got a couple regulars on the line. No surprise, I finished Zemi Cutney and the phone starts to ring. The first caller today was none other than Another Joe, followed by Martinez. So since Another Joe was first, I'll take Another Joe first and go from him to Martinez, and then maybe I can get into the calendar. This is what I got on the calendar just as a preview. I've got the quarterback versus the governor, Commissar DeNorcy versus the First Amendment, Romeo versus the media, the vision impaired versus the vision impaired. And I'll be lucky to get that far today, so I won't go any farther than that. Going straight to Another Joe. Hello, Another Joe.
Bob.
What can you tell me, Another Joe? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't sure if you heard me. Word of mouth is that Mr. Babalta resigned.
Yeah, he did resign. And of course, that will be part of the next promo for the 19th floor.
Oh, I've heard you. It's very educational, the Second Amendment information. I wanted to ask, I've heard you say you don't necessarily agree with certain interpretations of a militia as far as the law permits or identifies. And I think you were saying earlier, I'm not sure what you were saying exactly about whether everyone should be permitted to bear arms. Obviously, with regards to criminal activity, that would be restricted, but I'm not sure if you had another meaning to that. I don't know. I wonder if you could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, what I said was that I didn't agree with Justice Scalia's decision in District of Columbia versus Heller, where he read the word militia right out of the Second Amendment, betraying his own reverence for textualism and originalism. It was a classic case of throwing aside the rules of judicial construction to reach the right result. In other words, the result he wanted. So I didn't agree with him there. And I don't think the Second Amendment says what he said. I don't think it says what a lot of the pro-gun folks think it says or want it to say. But on the other hand, my opinion is that I wished it did, because I want citizens to have the right, honest citizens within the proper limits. I want citizens to have the right to keep and bear arms. It's unfortunate that the draftsman who did the Second Amendment didn't do a better job of it. That's what
So,
I meant.
Bob, I was trying to imagine in times of the Revolutionary War, and they have the Minutemen, and they've established that as their militia, I think, if I'm remembering it right. And they got their squirrel guns and their expert shots they practice all the time. And so they go out and they oppose the British, right? But then they come across other fellow colonists who aren't part of the militias, but happen to be carrying their squirrel guns as well. I wondered what you thought of the idea if they start to shoot the redcoats alongside with the militia. Do you think that the Minutemen and George Washington's forces would oppose that idea, or
No,
be offended?
I don't think so. Let me explain.
Okay.
My analysis is that the militia were the defense force of every one of the colonies and then states. It was like a small state army. It wasn't just everybody in town had a musket hanging over his over his fireplace, who would run down to the village square if he thought it necessary with his musket. It was like a small army. So when we had the exciting ride of Paul Revere, right, and that episode, if others joined in and with the militia to battle the British, they would be called partisans. Partisans are not members of military forces who take up arms against what is perceived to be an enemy. And certainly George Washington and the various state militias would have been glad for the assistance of the partisans.
Very good, very good. Thanks for clarifying that. So I think I think that's pretty much what I wanted to ask. Thanks for your time, and I'm, as usual, I'm kind of I'm nervous about but I think perhaps if I had any other thoughts, it'll come to me later. Hey, thanks for your time, Uncle Bob, and I'll just listen to.
All right, if you wanted to, you can ride the Ferris wheel again, another Joe. It wouldn't be the first time. Okay, that's another Joe talking about the Second Amendment, and now I have Martinez on the line. Good afternoon, Martinez.
Good afternoon, Bob. Martinez has got to give credit where credit is due.
Well, thank you, Martinez. You know, I always appreciate it when fans of Tall Tales call in and tell me what a great job I'm doing. So I appreciate that. If that's what
you got to listen to me.
Is that what you meant?
Wednesday, almost every test.
Was that what you meant?
The last 10 days,
Martinez.
has been almost 100% negative.
Martinez.
The last 2
hey,
days.
Hello, Martinez.
Are you going to interrupt me because I'm saying something you might not like?
No, I'm interrupting you because I'm directing the conversation. Okay, so is that what you meant when you said you had to give credit where credit is due?
Meant what? Well, if you let me finish instead of interrupting me, you're the one who doesn't like to be
this is a dialogue, Martinez.
No. I like to talk without being interrupted. When I say credit to credit's due, if you just listen, you'd know who I'm giving credit to.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you. Let me start over. Prior to Wednesday, in the last 10 days, almost every day, the tests have been almost all negative. In the last 2 days, there have been 350 tests, and all of them except one were negative. Whatever this governor's doing, it's working. She should get a lot of credit for keeping us safe. She hasn't let up. I know people are frustrated, but look at the results. She's got a batting average that any governor would be proud of. 350 and only one positive. And prior to that, it's almost every day. So people have been criticizing her. I want to give her credit. Facts are facts. She just pitched the no-hitter. And I think we should be proud that she's keeping us safe.
I
want to give her credit.
I got it. I heard you talking this morning on Ray about baseball. So let me give you a baseball analogy, Mark. Let's say we have a runner on third, and runner on third, last inning, 2 outs, and the manager gives the steal sign to the runner on third and tells the batter to lay down a sacrifice bunt. I'm sorry, 1 out, not 2 outs. Tells the batter to lay down a sacrifice bunt. The runner from thirds comes roaring into home. The catcher picks up the ball, throws it to the, I'm sorry, it is 2 outs, throws the ball to the first baseman, but he overthrows, it's an overthrow. The first baseman doesn't catch it, so the runner's safe on first. Do we give the manager credit for making a good call?
You know, you're trying to change the subject. Do you give her credit?
I am trying to change the
subject. Give her credit. 350 tests, and there's been
I am trying to change the subject.
I just want to give her credit. You're trying to change the subject.
I am trying to change the subject because
she gets a lot of credit. If it was the other way around, people like you and others would be criticizing her, you know, forever. But she has kept us safe. It's not easy.
Well, what has she done? What has she done to keep us safe, Mark?
Look at the results.
Okay.
Look at the results.
That takes us.
The no-hitter.
Yeah,
Look at the results of those tests.
That takes us back.
Those are people that have symptoms. A lot of them coming in, and they're all negative. I mean, 350 and only 1 positive. And prior to that, almost every day it's been all negative. I mean, any governor would be proud of that. So I think she deserves a lot of credit.
Well, you see, I don't.
People are mad at her for what she's doing, but look at the results. Whatever she's doing, it's working, Bob. That's all I got to say.
I don't agree, and that's why I take you to that analogy dealing with third base. If something good happens, and does that necessarily mean that the person who is the manager gets the credit for it? I would like to know what it is that she's done that she deserves all the credit for. The example.
All the negatives. The other way around, you'd be criticizing her forever, and you know it.
Martinez, this can't be
you gotta be objective, Bob.
This can't be a contest to see who can holler the loudest, okay? So my point is
I think you're scared of the facts. It makes her look good.
My point is this. Was it the way she handled the Gambling Institute instance down in Umatic? Was that what did it? Is that how she gets that she kept the virus down? Was it the other?
I'm changing the subject. I'm saying look at the facts.
Okay.
350 tested, and only 1 was positive.
And how did that happen?
Look at the facts.
How did that happen? What did
because of what she's doing.
Which is what?
She's putting in place.
What did she do?
It's not easy what she's doing. She's not letting up, but it's paying off.
Okay.
But look at other governors are letting up. The Prime Minister of New Zealand thinks she's already won it. She's letting it up, but our numbers are better than New Zealand. And the Prime Minister of New Zealand is already taking credit for it and letting up, and ours are better.
I'm not
just saying, look at these numbers, the last 12
Okay,
days.
I'll look at the numbers, but I go beyond the numbers and I ask, what is it that she did? Or was it the fact that the people embrace this idea of staying at home and the social distancing? Was it that?
True, but she's the leader, and she's continuing to push the policy, and she's making it clear that we have to take this sacrifice, and it's really paying off.
And that's my...
people want to go out, but, she's not letting up, and it's paying off.
And that's my...
You got to give her credit, Bob. Look at the facts. I just want to give her credit where credit's due.
Okay.
What's going on, but I'm saying look at the numbers.
Yeah, you've said
That's
it.
all, Bob.
I haven't kept track, but I think you've said it probably in the number 25 or 26 times. And I'm saying I'll look at the facts, but I want to know how those results were achieved. And I don't see leadership. I see hypocrisy. I see foolishness like the roadblocks. I see a population that took to heart the idea of the social distancing and staying at home. But the fact that the virus numbers have declined, no matter how many times somebody says, look at the facts, doesn't equate to her getting a lot of credit for it. Because not only that, because she's done so many other things that have made it so hard for people.
Well, I think any governor would be very proud if they had these numbers. We could go on, but I'm looking at the numbers.
Thank you very much, Martinez.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the that's the point. Already.
Rärnim. Paraus utsia rerewesemmer COVID-19 ika coronavirus. Förriwisom omkosap nafeten. Kopo betsökkyn, kopo riveriböts, me kopo wannefits. Toa seria ravas purapa kökyra, tsöydaan ei semmun. Esa por kotsu ike tsuffegen. Esa por kapong, esa por farropats ike kareffegen iri arabas. Kiits sipon nauti norim. Arapara betsökkyder iris. Anna fava sösö, om teiso, me ammogo kiobogo viannim. Paryn faitavin. Arapara rivöts, kopo kyky vattapa ravas. Toru boom murira varto sirireri veirisin. Kosa vattapa vesom, potum me avum. Toru fitsi boom meia kiattaporajan. Ei paraus, aetto seri atski office manuelu, Macronesian Resource Center, Mekkosteserin, Choice Broadcasting.
During this time of great uncertainty, Security Title is working to support our essential banks. We are working for the family who would have been homeless if their purchase was delayed, for the families refinancing to lower mortgage payments, for the contractor who has fronted the cost to build a home, and the surveyors, appraisers, inspectors, and the realtors who cannot make a living without selling a house. With our office doors locked and our essential team members complying with all government protocols, in our own small way, Security Title continues to serve our community.
Tall Tales is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Call 646-7616 or 777-7792. You can also visit them at horizonpropertiesguam.com.
Okay, so here we are back after our break, and I want to explain that baseball analogy just a minute so that baseball fans or non-baseball fans don't wonder what I was talking about. Baseball game, last inning, 2 outs, runner on third, batter. If the runner on third scores, the home team wins. So the manager tells the runner on third to steal home, and he tells the batter to lay down a bunt. Now, if the batter lays down a bunt, catcher picks it up and throws out the runner at first base before the man on third base steals home. The run doesn't count. So it's a really gutsy play, probably unexpected. But if the runner on third scores before the ball gets to first base, and even though the runner's out, the home team wins. So my question is this. Let's say that the manager tries that strategy. The catcher picks up the ball and overthrows first base, so it's an error on the catcher. And, of course, the runner scores, and the home team wins. Do we give the manager credit for a really great call? Look at the numbers. 1-0. Or do we say, no, it was an error on the part of the catcher that allowed the home team to win? So I want to make the same analysis of where we are with the Wuhan virus, that those numbers have gone down. But because Lou is the governor and the numbers have gone down, it doesn't ipso facto follow that it was something that she had done. One of our callers here kind of laid it out pretty good. Here's Ishmael Velez. He says the people kept the virus down, not Kim Jong-un. People were cautious for themselves and their families, and they stated, while Kim was still inviting the infected, as you were, people were cautious for themselves and their families, and they started while Kim Jong-un was inviting the infected, still inviting tourists to come to Guam after this Wuhan virus started. This wasn't her victory. This is our victory. Truth will be when we get the antibody test, which will reflect thousands were already infected. and therefore immune. So that's my analysis. A counting of the infected, the deaths, et cetera, it's important, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because Lou was the governor that she gets the credit for it. I also would point to the things that she did that were at cross purposes with what she was supposed to do. They had the poker party down at Umatic, which was an extreme violation of the social distancing rules, and she really took a firm step on that one. She took those people that were part of her cabinet and her police officer driver, and she fired them on the spot very publicly and said, we can't have this. It doesn't matter who you are. We all got to obey these rules. Not. She didn't do anything. And when her director of communications was asked about it, Janela Carrera said, we don't talk about personnel. When one of her cabinet members came back from a trip to the States, instead of being quarantined, she was allowed to go home, tested positive, along with two of her traveling companions, which everybody found out about. So people are saying, yeah, I'm doing the social distancing, but am I the only one? So when you're talking about leadership, leadership oftentimes means leading by example. It means if your hair is turning gray, you let it turn gray. You don't break the rules and go out and have somebody dye your hair. Now, that's a small thing, but that's where we are. So I have not seen convincing or even persuasive proof that any of the things that the governor has done have had an effect on the numbers. I can see some things that were absolutely ridiculous, like wasting everybody's time with those checkpoints for almost a month. So I'm not ready to give the governor credit for the low numbers. Okay, let's see, where are we here? I got three calls coming in. I've got our Carl, I've got John, and another Joe. I guess, is John first or our Carl? Our Carl. Okay, our Carl, what can you tell me about the runner on third in the sacrifice bunt? A little louder, please. Oops. Okay, our Carl, what can you tell me about the runner on third in the sacrifice bunt?
Yeah, if she wants to take credit, she also has to take the blame where it's due to. That's how this works. And in America, anywhere from 20 to 80,000 people die every year from the seasonal flu. Last year was over 80,000 died from the seasonal flu, the highest in 4 decades. And the thing is that I brought up yesterday about Massachusetts, how that 8,000 people have died there. The average age was 82, and in the 20 to 40 year age bracket, only one person died, and in the 1 to 19 year age bracket, 0 people died. So with this in mind, what we need to do is work on getting family breadwinners back to work, because I keep seeing more and more on Facebook people desperate, running out of money, running out of food. I mean, they're desperate to. They don't want a handout. Most of them, they want to get back to work to provide for their families. And what this administration has done, and early on it was kind of understandable that there would be a little bit of panic because we didn't know what we're dealing with. But now we know much better, that this illness targets certain groups of people, and we can focus on protecting those people. But the rest need to get back to work. We can't indefinitely afford to have businesses shut down for months and months and months. This will destroy businesses. There are businesses that are not coming back. There are jobs that are not coming back. And if they do come back, the hours are going to be cut, positions are going to be cut. So, this is a two-sided sword. The damage that has been done to the economy by extending it beyond where it should be extended, there needs to be responsibility for that as well. It can't be all of the credit and none of the blame. My daughter lost her job. She's had virtually zero income since this thing started, and she was threatened, as I mentioned yesterday, if she used her cosmetology skills, even for close personal family, she would risk losing her license. Lou is a multimillionaire, and she has enabled many people to have the privilege of staying home and getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Most people in this economy don't have that privilege. They are hanging on by their bare fingernails trying to survive. And I'm just not seeing any empathy at all for those thousands and thousands of, tens of thousands of individuals and families who are struggling and begging for help to get through this. All we hear is, well, we're going to extend it some more. It just doesn't come across as having any empathy for the middle class and the lower middle class who are desperate to provide for their families. Anyway, so I just wanted to add some balance to that, that credit is a two-sided sword. There's credit, and then there's responsibility for the bad things, too, that happen. And I think she needs to bear both of those things. It can't be all the good things and none of the bad. And this economy, even once it starts up, it's going to be a long, slow grind up that hill to get it anywhere near the revenue that the businesses knew before this coronavirus. Anyway, that's just a few thoughts I had about that.
Okay, so you're not going to rule on the wisdom of the managers doing the steel home sacrifice bunt?
Well, yes. A lot of times it's the skill of the players, and there is a certain amount of credit that
or the screw ups of the players. In other words, sometimes things turn out very well for the leader, not to his own efforts, but for some external cause. The example I've used on the program before is this: if you are a rainmaker, and your job is to make it rain. Let's say that you do the rain. You're the Indian in the Indian tribe. You're the rainmaker, and it starts to rain. The thing to do is run outside and start dancing, so that people will give you the credit for the rain. Anyhow, enough of that. Thanks for calling, another Carl. Okay, and I've got John is next up in the green room. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon there, Bob. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Hey, when I came in, I guess I got the tail end of what you were discussing about the Second Amendment. I mean, is there something new going on, or, can you?
Yeah, there's something new going on. I beg your pardon?
Okay. Oh, no, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, the Supreme Court. Okay, I'll have to come back. I'll come back to that after the big halftime show, John. If you want to hang on or call back, I'll come back to your question then. And I've got another Joe, and we've got the big halftime show, and then we've got another promo for the 19th floor. You won't want to miss that.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
More restrictions being relaxed today. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Federal distancing guidelines have expired. More states allowing their residents to venture out again starting today.
Another Florida beach will allow people on it starting today. It's Pensacola.
Groups no more than 10. And they stay 6 feet apart.
Robert Bender is a local county commissioner there. In Texas, you can try going to the multiplex, but they're only going to fill 1 out of every 4 seats. Oregonians can go back to the doctor or even the dentist. And in Pennsylvania, you can golf, you can take out a boat, or even go camping. Up in Vermont, you can go grocery shopping once again at farmers markets.
Fox's Eben Brown, but in Orange County, California, the beaches are closed starting today. Governor Gavin Newsom ordering the closings after thousands of people went to the beach last weekend and virus hospitalizations spiked a few days later. More protests Thursday over Michigan's lockdown order. State lawmakers suing Governor Gretchen Whitmer, claiming she's overstepped her authority. She then extended the state's emergency declaration for another 4 weeks. Organizers calling for employees at Amazon, Whole Foods, and other companies to call in sick or walk off their jobs today, demanding they be better protected from the coronavirus at work. 3.8 million people applied for unemployment benefits last week. More FBI documents unsealed in the Michael Flynn case on Thursday, one showing a since-disgraced agent pressured investigators to keep the case against Flynn open despite a lack of evidence.
The case must be dismissed, preferably for government misconduct, but in any event, the guilty plea or the guilty verdict thrown out because General Flynn is absolutely innocent. He has been the entire time.
It's General Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, on Fox's Hannity. America is listening to Fox News.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Brothers but branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
Bored at home? Now's the perfect time to get things done. Start that project you've always wanted or finish one. At East West Rental Center, they know you've reached the end of the internet and need to get outside, and they're here to help. Get the right equipment: water blasters, wood chippers, mini backhoes, carpet cleaners, floor buffers, and much more. They're open Monday to Friday from 7 to 5, Saturday from 8 to noon, and closed on Sunday. Call East West Rental Center, 646-1463, or visit them in Upper Dumont.
Experts are predicting many small businesses will not survive the business shutdowns of the last few weeks, and an industry group is now warning your hometown doctor may be among them.
The American Medical Association is warning some independent practitioners may go under.
If people can't make payroll and lose their staff, they won't be able to reopen when we get this surge in pent-up demand that we're likely to see later on this summer.
Past president of the AMA, Dr. Barbara McEnany, says the group has been lobbying Congress about the plight of private practices, and she's encouraging independent doctors to utilize telehealth technology, as well as seek help through the Small Business Administration. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
Over health concerns, the Trump administration suspending immigration court hearings for asylum seekers waiting in Mexico for at least another month. Could be as many as 25,000 people waiting south of the border. Federal judges ruled the Trump administration cannot withhold certain federal funds from cities that declare themselves sanctuaries against federal immigration efforts. The case likely headed for an appeal. A new approach to handling the dearly departed in one state.
Washington State today becomes the first in the nation to use composting as an alternative to burying or cremating human remains, a process where licensed facilities turn a body mixed with wood chips and natural debris into about 2 wheelbarrows worth of soil in a span of several weeks. Loved ones are allowed to keep the soil for gardens in a method that supporters say is an environmentally friendly alternative to cremation, which releases carbon dioxide and particulates into the air, and conventional burial, which puts chemicals and coffins into the ground. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
During this time of great uncertainty, Security Title is working to support our essential banks. We are working for the family who would have been homeless if their purchase was delayed, for the family's refinancing to lower mortgage payments, for the contractor who has fronted the cost to build a home, and the surveyors, appraisers, inspectors, and the realtors who cannot make a living without selling a house. With our office doors locked and our essential team members complying with all government protocols, in our own small way, Security Title continues to serve our community.
Half a day. This is Michelle from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated teams in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
If you've ever struggled for breath, you know what a scary experience it is. Whether you have asthma, emphysema, COPD, lung cancer, or another respiratory illness, the right medical treatment makes all the difference. GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic has the latest technology and respiratory equipment, staffed by world-class pulmonologists. Make an appointment today with GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic and start breathing easier. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Another great halftime show here on Tall Tales, and as promised earlier in the program, we're going to do another promo for that great Tall Tales TV serial TV program called The 19th Floor. Yesterday we had the first promo dealing with the 19th floor. We kind of described some of the characters involved. We have a new edition or a new promo for the 19th floor that's been somewhat updated. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the real Joe Cruz to do the promo for the 19th floor.
Don't miss another episode of the TTTV production of the 19th floor. The 19th floor heralds the exciting saga of the events centering on the secret domain of the 19th floor of Guam's snazziest hotel. The bigger-than-life characters, like Tony and Rebecca, living the sweet life. AG leaving on a jet plane Camacho, juggling contracts that the governor says she signed. Crystal Paco San Agustin, tap dancing, and Commissar Linda, the storyteller DeNorsi, manipulating the government from the secret domain, will keep you on the edge of your chair. As the story unfolds, you'll learn how the $1.6 million payment for the 19th floor helps with the Bank of Guam mortgage on the hotel. Is it in default? And how campaign contributions to the governor's campaign relate? Details of what Tony did in the suite on the 19th floor are eclipsed by the device that the governor installed that zipped Tony from the 19th floor to the prone position under the bus. Thrilled to the machinations of Janella as she turns off microphones and keeps all loose talk about the 19th floor on the down low. Puzzles over the techniques that allowed Troy to install listening devices on the 19th floor, or did he just rely on double agents? Disclaimer, neither Quentin Tarantino nor Coen brothers assisted in the production or direction of the 19th floor.
You know, Real Joe Cruz, maybe the disclaimer mentioning that it's not a Quentin Tarantino or Coen brothers production might not be necessary, because even those guys couldn't think of something as bizarre as the 19th floor. Yeah. Well, we try to be a little bit literate here on Tall Tales, and so I'm going to turn now to our local poet laureate who enhanced some of the work of Edgar Allan Poe. Goes like this. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless on the 19th floor.
Oh.
Now think of what Edgar Allan Poe could have done if he were around today with the 19th floor, the pit and the pendulum.
Oh, it would have been really dark.
Yeah, he could with material like that. Wow. Okay, so I've got more literary material here. Denise Pangilinan said, "Lou has lost her way. She thinks she's the queen and answers to no one between silencing the media and how she addresses the people of Guam in a condescending way. Has shown untouchable she thinks she is, how untouchable she thinks she is." I'll come back to that in a minute, Denise, but I don't want to keep these folks waiting any longer. So I've got Senator Chris, Jack, and another Joe for another ride on the Ferris wheel. Good afternoon, Senator Chris. Good afternoon,
Up a day,
Senator.
Your Honor.
Yeah.
And Senator and Marine and my favorite talk show host. You know, not a lot of high rises on Guam, but I would imagine after this episode, you know how some hotels don't put the 13th floor on their keypad?
Yeah. Bad luck. Yeah.
I would think there would be some who would consider eliminating the 19th floor from their high rise.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, it'd be kind of embarrassing for someone when asked, "Where are you staying?" "Well, I'm at the XYZ hotel on the 19th floor." Yeah. Good point, Chris.
You know, I've been listening to the exchange with Martinez, both on Ray's show and with you, and I know that you've had a great baseball analogy. It's just maybe not all of our international radio listenership is, sports inclined or to understand such a complex, but, you know, for sports heads like us, understandable. I wanted to try this. I really care about Bob Klitzkie, and he's a good friend of mine, and I honestly never want to see him die in a car crash. So I know how to make sure that my friend, Senator Bob Klitzkie, will never die in a car crash. I will ban him to his home and never allow him to travel by motor vehicle. Bob Klitzkie will not die in a car crash.
True enough.
Now, I only use that analogy because Martinez has a point. There's no question that the world resorted to lockdown to do a couple of things. One is the main thing was to stop the spread, and by stopping the spread also, the main thing was not to cripple the infrastructure of the medical system so that it wouldn't get so overwhelmed that it would get out of hand. And so that's become the measuring stick as to what most jurisdictions are using, aside from a phased-in unlocking of the world. And they're using that as their benchmark going forward, hopefully, to say, let's keep an eye on hospitalization as we ease things so that we understand when and if we ever need to do this crazy stuff of lockdown again. I think the balance that's not applied to by Martinez is the fact that people are not necessarily upset about the measures taken, but people adhered to the measures, and that's what Mana and yourself and Ray were trying to talk about. It was the discipline of the people. It was Payless going from everybody walking in the door, just do, running through the halls and everything else, and no restrictions and everything else, to, okay, everybody wear a mask, okay, sanitize the carts, okay, duct tape on the wall, only so many people in there. Every time a person goes to buy their grocery, they make sure they wipe the belt. I mean, really just ultra sanitized conditions now. And, you know, Payless Corporation did that. Costuless did that. My mom and pop stores, I can't go in my mom and pop stores without a mask and getting sprayed, my hands sprayed, or they won't let me go shop. So the thing is that the people took action, businesses took action, everybody else took action, but I think it's the reaction and the non flexibility towards saying, when we saw the numbers, you know, dropping from absolute crazy, you know, 20,000 dead pronouncements that scared everybody to begin with, to very, very nominal figures, it was the lack of elasticity and response and the recognition, like our Carl and others have been saying, and we've been talking about for weeks now, like, ease up on this and let's get back to normal, because we're probably on the world stage and even on the U.S. stage, an extremely successful jurisdiction with 5 deaths, 100 and some positive cases. The Theodore Roosevelt probably getting underway here in the next couple of weeks after a very successful sanitation and the saving of lives and things happening. We're probably, you know, internationally one of the greatest success stories, but it doesn't show it in terms of our response and our ramping down and the ability of the CEO of our island to say, I listened to the medical folks, I did what we could do, but I had to make sure that I listened to everybody, because there's other facets of this economy and this island that I have to now move into. And to top it off in the end is the ultimate frustration of people not believing that there's alacrity with regard to getting these federal dollars out to people who are really needing it. That's the frustration. I don't think the frustration is the success and the numbers. I saw a video today of a survivor of COVID leaving the hospital under congratulatory measures, with hospital folks sending her home, you know, another success story of surviving COVID. That's beautiful. But the fact of the matter, it's all the other factors, I think, that people are frustrated with, and it's why not to mention the 19th floor, is why the boiling point exists. I don't know if that's a logical analysis, but that's the best I can do, Bob.
Well, let me just throw out a couple other analogies that aren't a close fit, but analogies don't have to be close fits to be instructive. Bob Klitzkie is a really good, I'm Chris. Bob Klitzkie is a really good friend of mine, and I don't want him to get killed in a car accident. So therefore, I have disabled every single automobile on the island. Bob didn't get killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's kind of like, so I'm going to shut down everything on the island and nobody's going to go to work. So, you know, I saved Bob's life by disabling every automobile on the island. Or I tell Bob every day, Bob, you got to drive safely. Now, let's assume that I'm a really safe driver anyhow. That's kind of a leap, but anyhow, let's assume I'm a really safe driver anyhow. And you say, Bob, you've got to drive safely every day. And 20 years hence, I was not killed in a car accident. So you say, I deserve a lot of credit. I saved Bob's life. He didn't get killed in a car accident. See what I'm driving at, Chris?
I do. And the one thing I want to say is the other things that didn't kill Bob is Bob went to work, Bob earned a living, Bob took care of his family, Bob went to the doctor, Bob exercised regularly. All those things kind of contributed to Bob's livelihood too. And the beautiful thing about it is Bob was able to do all those things.
Yep. Well, thanks for chiming in, Chris. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Appreciate it. See you at Mass.
Okay. And let's see, on my next caller here is Jack. Okay, somebody's going to tell, a caller is going to tell me that I don't know Jack, but of course I do know Jack, don't I, Jack?
Yes, of course, Bob. Good afternoon. Yeah, I was kind of lost on the baseball analogy, and it kind of, I had a little bit of a brain freeze, because where you were talking about the baseball analogy of Lou being a manager, which is correct, but Martinez was talking about Lou being the pitcher, which is wrong. Because actually, you can pitch a no-hitter and still lose the game. It happened to my beloved Red Sox back in the '90s, and Matt Young was on the mound, and it's happened a few times. And of course, during the regular season, how many times have you seen a pitcher throw a no-hitter and be yanked out by the third because they kept fouling away? They were walking base on, and their arms got tired. So you can actually pitch a no-hitter and still be yanked out. We're not even done with the game, and he's already calling the game. So, yeah, let's be a little bit worried about this, because he's right. The governor has the kudos, but you're right also. She did a lot of missteps, and this game is not over. We might be seeing extra innings. We might be going into a double header. We don't know. So, it's best to do and act with prudence. And I agree with you that prudence isn't in the favor of our governor here. It's like she's all over the board on this stuff. And I keep referring to the comprehensive emergency management plan, and they come up with these core signals, and I go, oh my gosh. And in the emergency management plan, they talk about tier levels, and it applies it to any crisis. So I really am a little bit confused about this. I think a lot of the kudos and hard work are those that recognize the social distancing. You look at the places that are open, and they're doing their best they can with the situation. And we just need to open the faucet here and get us back moving in the right direction, because I'm really hurting out here, Bob. I'm at home, and it doesn't matter because I'm still paying money on utilities, still paying money from my phone. I'm still paying money out there, but I'm not bringing any money in. And so unfortunately for this this paycheck guarantee stuff, because they took in the applications for larger small businesses and left us self-employed and gig workers to apply last. I don't think we're going to see any help at this round, and I don't know if we're going to see any in the next round. But we do the best that we can, and I just hope that if the governor is listening, or anybody out there, that we all need a break, and the break is to raise the lifelines for the power and the water. And it's not going to be like hundreds of dollars. We're not asking for forgiveness. We're just asking for a little break here. And it's about time that they revisit and raise those lifelines, because they've been at that pace, 500 watts, since I was in high school. So I hope they do things for the island in general. I'm kind of sad that that the money that's coming in to help the island has to go through the government coffers because, it seems like they always get their cut before it gets to the right place. Talk about trickle-down economy. It's sad that it goes this way, but I think we're in a better position than the other territories, and we just have to do our best. Go ahead.
Let me talk a minute about the lifeline rate. The utilities have are going to have a serious cash flow problem because we have the personnel rules provision that anyone who comes to work during an emergency gets double pay. And then Lou asked Lou put an executive order in place that adds on another 10, 15, or 25% of pay for people that actually come to work. So when the two utilities see their personnel costs increase, not double, but pretty close, that's going to have a serious impact on their ability to change the rates. But it's kind of like what you said about the government taking its cut out of everything that comes in.
Yeah. This is how I see it. Is when I'm talking about the lifeline, all I'm really talking about is cost shifting. So it doesn't, if you're using 1,500 kilowatts a month, and let's say 500 is of course the baseline, and the other 1,000 is over at the higher rate. All you're doing is cost shifting, and what you're doing is knocking down. So let's say we turned back to make the 1,000 for the lifeline, 500 for the over the 1,000. All you're doing is just cost shifting, and to us it'll be, yeah, I agree with you. To us it'll be like dollars, but yeah, to the utility itself it'll be like in the million or something like that. But I think we deserved it. I think it has never been looked at, and it's an arbitrary line. And it's not like the generators work harder, over that 500. They drew an arbitrary line in the sand, and they said, hey, you go over this mark, you pay this extra fee. So until we get to a use on demand, I think really we should look at that. And I think this is a good time, better than never, to bump up that lifeline to 1,000. And anything over 1,000 would be you pay that extra over 1,000 usage. But right now, we need some solutions. We need people out here need help, and I'm not asking for handouts. And when I ask for something, I make sure that it's across the board, not just me. So I think that's a good thing to help the island, especially the residents, especially those with large families. And so we need to look at that lifeline and make that adjustment now.
Okay, Jack, I got your point. All
right, thanks, Bob.
I got Frenchie hanging on, so thanks for calling, Jack. And let's see, we got the 7th inning stretch coming up. I've got another Joe trying to cut in front of the line to get back on the Ferris wheel. And Frenchie's in line to get on the Ferris wheel. So since another Joe has already had one ride, right after the 7th inning stretch, we'll go to Frenchie.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo, 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his smile team. Suite 119 in the East-West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his smile team.
They make smiles happen.
Talk to us with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Call them at 646-7616 or 777-7792, or you can visit them at horizonpropertiesguam.com.
So here we are, seventh inning stretch, Wrigley Field, Chicago, Illinois. And there's nobody in the stands, there's nobody on the field. So we're back here to Tall Tales. I had a poster a little earlier. I can't find the post right now, but she referred to Lou's acting like a queen. And that just coincided with a little research I was doing here. The 19th floor is going to be a really exciting program, but I'm looking around for another theme to develop. And I stumbled across this. Alice observed 3 playing cards painting white roses. They dropped to the ground at the approach of the Queen of Hearts, whom Alice has never met. When the Queen arrives and asks Alice, who's lying on the ground, since the backs of all playing cards look alike, Alice tells her that she does not know. The Queen then becomes frustrated and commands that her head be severed. She's deterred by her comparatively moderate husband by being reminded that Alice is only a child. Generally, however, as we're told by Lewis Carroll, the Queen had only one way of settling all difficulties, great or small. Off with his head, she said, without even looking around. The Queen of Hearts. So maybe when we're done with the 19th floor, we could expand on the Queen of Hearts. Okay, Frenchie, you're probably quite familiar with the Queen of Hearts, right, Frenchie?
Well, now that you reshuffle the cards, I don't know where to start, Yeah, usually when I start listening to the program, it's the time I feed my dogs. Because I think the program is always very interesting, and so they can learn something while they're eating. But then today, it was the same time that Martinez called, and one of my dog almost choked, and the other one started rolling on the ground laughing. So it was very hard for me to keep them eating. It was very disturbing. Martinez is one of those guys that is a perfect example that good intentions pave the way to hell. And again, Lou getting good results right now. A broken clock is correct twice a day. And, it's just incidental. Will Martinez be willing to give Lou the blame for the catastrophic economical numbers we're going to get pretty soon? Let
me stick up for Martinez here for a second, Frenchie. I don't think that's his. I don't think that's his game, his angle. I think his angle was that if you looked at the numbers in isolation of everything else, then a rational mind would have to give the credit to Lou for the favorable numbers. I think that's his point. And of course, you know what my point is.
I understand, but it's a little bit my old story about the frog with the 4 legs that have been severed, and the scientist is encouraging her to jump, and his conclusion when the frog doesn't jump is that the frog is deaf. And that's that's exactly where we are. So anyway, I was going to talk about something else, which is, we have the situations we're in is actually the numbers regarding the spread are actually pretty good, but the conclusion of Lou is that we need to keep going for another 30 days, despite the fact that obviously a lot of businesses are going to suffer from that, and there is a lot of there's going to be a ripple effect for months to come, and she is not putting that in the equation at all. You see that the Democrats in the legislature are starting to revolt. Even Tina Muna Barnes has agreed to meet on May 5th on Cinco de Mayo, because I think they understand that if they keep going down that path, they're all going to lose the election this fall. And so I wouldn't be surprised starting Tuesday that you see the Dems in the legislature being starting some pushback against Lou, because they realize it's kind of suicidal to do that. And that's one thing a politician never wants to do, is lose an election. And, today, again, Lou started to damage the equipment of GovGuam by throwing another guy under the bus. How many people can you throw under the bus before all those buses start break down? We have a lot of problem. Thursday, what's his name? The Senator Jim Moylan tried to do a open forum with people that are a little confused about how to file for this and that, and he had asked some of the people from Adelup to come and answer questions directly from people, what's the best way to proceed and so on. Well, guess what? Nobody showed up for Adelup, and he was quite peeved, and I think on Tuesday when the senators are going to meet, she just gave red meat to Jim Moylan to really go at it. And I think he might have supports from the Democrats on this thing. It's very interesting. So that's where we're going. And, that bunker mentality at Adelup is very dangerous. I should remind them that exactly 75 years ago, there was another guy in a bunker. His name was Hitler, and he committed suicide because of his policies finally brought down his hand. And they should be more careful and start listening a little bit around and be a little more understanding of the plight of all the poor people out there that don't even have money to buy a can of Spam. In my neighborhood the other day, I went around with a basket and started distributing cans of Spam, because you have all those people living in those tin can homes that don't have anything to eat. And, they were surprised that white guy was coming down the neighborhood with cans of Spams. But personally, I'm retired and I'm financially independent, but that doesn't mean everybody is like me. And a lot of people are having a tough time. They don't know how their kids are going to eat tomorrow morning, or if they're going to eat at all. And we have a governor who is sitting on her millions up there at Adelup and is being kind of Marie Antoinette-like, so let them eat cake, or don't worry, or she rolls her eyes when people are asking questions about the economy. She needs to come down from her high horse and forget about the numbers, start understanding how people live and try to survive. Because this is really what's at stake for a lot of people, is survival. Survival. And when people have nothing to eat, guess what? They're going to go and get it someplace else. And we're going to see some ugly stuff if something is not done very soon. That's my take on this. So,
as usual, Frenchie, I think you're right on point. Thank you very much for calling and sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope a little bit of common sense will start getting into those sick skulls up at Adelup. So, all right. Have a very nice weekend. We'll wait impatiently for Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough weekend for the real Joe and I. No tall tales for 2 days, but we'll make it somehow, Frenchie. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so I've got another Joe who wants to ride the Ferris wheel again, and then Pete. Is this Pete or repeat?
I think it's Pete, sir. He said his name was Pete.
Can you repeat?
Yes, sir. He said his name was Pete.
Repeat?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
He said his name was Pete, sir.
Okay. Pete, is that you, Pete?
Half a day, Uncle Bob. Yes, it's me. How are you?
Pretty good. I asked if real Joe Cruz if he could repeat, and he said no, he can't. But it's you. Good afternoon, repeat.
Good afternoon. I guess you haven't heard from me in a while, so
that's true. Yeah,
it's not really a repeat. It's I guess the first time for a while.
Yeah.
But anyways, with Martinez, I think he was trying to use the what we call in the legal world res ipsa loquitur.
Yes, sir.
The thing speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the concept he was trying to make or try to convey. But I think there's a cause and effect problem that he has, and you're trying to ask him, okay, that's the effect, but show me how it was the cause, how the governor was the cause. So anyways, I think he's just thinking that the thing speaks for itself. But what I really wanted to talk about, Uncle Bob, is I don't understand what's the big hurdle with unemployment, getting unemployment going. I mean, I understand like Florida has only paid out about between 15 to 19% of people who have applied, and they have their own issues. But is it really that difficult to get a program up and running? What do you think?
Well, it should be easy in the 50 states because the 50 states all have what's called unemployment insurance. So they've got the data and they know who the people are, and it should be relatively easy for them. For us, it's hard because we don't know.
Why? But we have Department of Revenue and Taxation. They should have, all the records of who's been receiving pay.
Well, as I understand it, the Revenue and Taxation will go off the 2018 tax returns, but that doesn't really show who is working and who's unemployed. So as I understand it, the complexity is that the local Department of Labor requires people to prove up the fact that they had jobs that they lost, and then there's the interplay between the Treasury and the government of Guam, because we don't pay into the Treasury. We have the mirror image tax. That's my understanding, Pete.
Yeah, but I guess I'm missing something, because if someone's working, then their employer is supposed to be paying their payroll taxes, correct?
Yeah, but we don't. One of the payroll taxes we don't pay is the tax on the first $7,000 that goes into the unemployment insurance fund in the 50 states.
And, because people, are making big to-dos about transparency and all this and that, I think that the unemployment issue would be a great topic or issue to appoint a special master for. And I nominate you, Uncle Bob, to be the special master for getting the unemployment program up and running.
Well, I appreciate the confidence that you have in me, Pete, but I've got such an important job here at Tall Tales. I don't know what my international radio listening audience would do if I had to put my microphone away. I tried it a couple of times, and the results were not good.
Yeah, we missed you during Thanksgiving season.
Yeah, but it's a good idea. It's a good suggestion, Pete. I appreciate it.
Well, if there's anybody else that is willing to step up to the plate that has the great reputation like you, I think that'd be a great opportunity to appoint a special master to get this done. I mean, we shouldn't have to wait for the federal government to appoint a receiver. We could do that on our own.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I thank you for your vote of confidence. Thanks for calling in, Pete. Glad to talk to you again. It's been a while.
All right. I'll see you next week.
Okay. That was repeat, Real Joe Cruz. That's why I kept asking you, repeat.
Yeah, I don't know, sir. Maybe he misrepresented who he was.
Maybe he's disguising his voice.
It's possible, sir.
Maybe he wants to sneak into the 19th floor.
That's possible, too.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So I got another Joe and Bruce. I'll take another Joe and then come back to you, Bruce. I think we'll break first, and then I'll take these two calls on the home stretch.
One of the easiest ways to prevent the spread of COVID-19 is to wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Let this message help you time it. Start soaping up, now. If you're sick or caring for someone who is, wear a surgical mask or N95 respirator when you're around others. If you're not sick, wear a washable cloth face covering in case you're an asymptomatic carrier. Don't touch the front of the mask and always remove it from the back. When you cough or sneeze, use a tissue or your upper sleeve, not your hands. Choice Broadcasting reminds you to stay safe and stay clean. You can rinse now.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, did I lose another Joe?
Oh, yeah, it looks like he dropped.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, well, maybe he wanted to clear the lines for Bruce. So you're on, Bruce.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
You know, I've listened to your show all the time, but I usually try to refrain from comment because I'm not a PhD, MD, or anybody with any special skill set as far as schooling is concerned. But my comment that I wanted to make really is about something that Michael Israel said the other day, as far as why are we listening to experts that obviously have been way off base with their predictions. But I have a personal I've actually dealt with this as a safety administrator for DOE with public health. And I know how they can be once they get a little power. And obviously, I'm not defending the governor. Her tone is what the problem is. She's sounding dictatorial, and she's speaking down to the people versus being motherly. But she's also getting very bad advice from the Department of Public Health, which is getting their advice from CDC. And we all know what that problem is like. It's obvious with what the nation has gone through, what Trump has been given bad information. And so it's the same thing here with our governor. But if anybody's been really paying attention to this curve that they're talking about, there is no curve. It's a flat line. And the reason I believe this has happened is because our proximity to China being so close, it's my belief that we had this virus here from maybe November, December of last year. It's already peaked. We've gone through the apex, if you want to call it. Now we're flatlining. The only reason that they're coming up with more cases is because they're now testing. We didn't have any testing for the longest time. And what they're doing, this whole shutdown and everything that we're going through, right, is overdone, and I think we're seeing this everywhere. Unfortunately, this is what happens when an agency gets power in their hands. They just run amok, but they are not experts. So the last thing I just want to say is that, you know, intelligence, you know, and wisdom do not go hand in hand. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, well, all good points, Bruce. Thank you very much for calling. And that's kind of the difference between them and us. That they hold the view that experts should be in charge and make all the decisions, and we hold that it should be left up to the people. So thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've our car and another Joe, 2 repeaters in a row. So let's see, I think I'll go with our Carl here this time, knowing that he is a very considerate gentleman, and we'll reserve a little time at the end of the program for another Joe. Correct, our Carl?
Absolutely. I can appreciate Repeat's comments about unemployment insurance, but I think the bigger fish we've got to fry very soon is to create the conditions, the ideal conditions for business startups and growth, because I've just got a bad feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of businesses that never come back, jobs that disappear, jobs that are downsized, hours that are cut, and these businesses are going to be fighting a life and death battle for a number of months trying to get their revenue back up anywhere near what it was before. So I have little confidence that the administration or our legislature will do it, but it's the thing that really should be done. And if we create the right economic conditions, then businesses will come back, they will start up again, they will continue to grow. And I look to Hong Kong as the ideal example, and I'll read this brief description of their economic situation and what caused them to grow from a small backwater territory into a powerhouse of economic growth. And efficient and independent judiciary, respect for the rule and law and property rights, an uncomplicated tax system with low rates on both individuals and business, and an overall tax burden that's a mere 14% of GDP, half the U.S. rate. No taxes on capital gains or interest income, or even on earnings from outside of Hong Kong. No sales tax or VAT tax either. A very light regulatory touch, no government budget deficit, and almost non-existent public debt. Oh, and don't forget its average tariff rate of near zero. Unfortunately, knowing the administration and the legislature, they may actually propose a tax increase once things start coming, businesses start back, so which would be suicidal. But I think that's the biggest thing they've got to face, is to create the conditions for business startups and growth, because there are going to be a lot of businesses that are either dead or on life support and fighting for life. So, that's what I think. And I have to ask you one question, Bob. Maybe you can comment.
Sure.
I have to wonder, is there anything to be gained by crippling the economy? Because it seems almost like there's a purposeful effort to cripple the economy and bring this economy to its knees. Is there some bizarre ulterior motive? I'm not really a
well, Lou said
conspiracy theory guy, but can you tell me, is there something I'm missing here? Because I have to wonder.
Lou said not too long ago that she's not going to loosen up on the Wuhan virus restrictions until the economy stabilizes. And my comment on that was the economy is very close to stable right now, right down at the very bottom. So the economy will stabilize, but in a place where we don't want to see it. The other example I could give you, and I can't remember exactly what it is, what it's called. It's two guys' names. One of them is Pliven. I'm sure our listeners out there know what I'm talking about. The idea that the way to bring about the socialist paradise is to bankrupt the social justice functions of a government, deplete all of the welfare money and everything like that, so that people will be so.
Piven something, I forget.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I don't think
that makes sense. Anyway, I want to leave time for
another Joe.
The other Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, another Joe. So I better get off the line and let him say his two bits.
Thanks very much, Carl. A very considerate gentleman, our Carl, right? Another Joe?
Very considerate man.
Yeah.
Very.
So what can you tell me at the end of the program here, another Joe?
I'm competing with loud background noise and rainy weather. So I got actually several points, starting with your challenge of the baseball analogy, which isn't that two runners, Uncle Bob? Because the catcher overthrew first. That means I forget the rules. The first baseman can't continue running.
Say again?
The first baseman is not able to continue running. That's the game's over.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're back to my analogy. Well, we've got a batter and a runner on third. And if the batter is thrown out at first before the runner on third scores, the run doesn't count. But if the runner on third scores, even though the batter is thrown out, the run still counts.
Okay, so it doesn't. But it ends right there. It ends either with the third baseman or catching. Catching up to the runner.
The game would not have ended under the example that I provided, but if you had a situation where, let's say the runner on third scores and the batter is thrown out at first, it's over. If there are 3 outs, the inning is over.
Is there any situation where the runner can continue from first all the way and they get two points for that team? No.
Well, if the catcher overthrows first base after he picks up the bunt, and the runner can make it to second base, he can make it to second base, and I suppose you can imagine a situation where the first baseman picks up the ball and throws to the second baseman, but the second baseman misses it, and the batter advances to third, and so on. But this is a pretty amateurish group of baseball players. Another Joe.
Yeah. So the point is, you were comparing it to Julian Guerrero, and you're like, okay, do we give her credit for all the foul-ups all around?
Do we give the manager credit? The manager tells the runner on third to steal home, and he tells the batter to bunt. And because the catcher screws up and overthrows first base, the run scores. Do we say, man, that manager's really brilliant? Or do we say, man, that manager's really lucky because the catcher screwed up?
Lucky, right?
Yeah.
So then the next thing you brought up was that there's, I think what I got out of it anyway was that we need to be very vigilant, right? Especially with the Second Amendment, because it could be like a domino effect of we're losing our rights one at a time, and we definitely need the Second Amendment to protect the further loss of rights once it starts. And you were concerned about the governor wiping out the open government sunshine law, and which is basically, it's understandable because you're trained in this respect, and it's like muscle memory. It's like the martial artist or the trained boxer. If someone's throwing a punch, you instinctively either block the punch or you move out of the way of the punch. So are you still there, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, that's what I'm getting out of it, coming from your perspective, that it's really muscle memory. It's to be expected you're going to be protective over all the rights, and you start out every show with the Second Amendment. So it's not, people shouldn't be shocked and take offense. It's like they said before, whether it's Younger or someone else, anyone else, you're going to take the same stance, and rightly so, because what happens the next time? You just set a precedent by letting her do this, right? So then why not the next person, right? So of course there has to be questions, just out of deterrence for a future mishap. So I just wanted to add that into, in the sense of anathematic, we should not be too offended, and then when things calm down and when those rights are put back in place. Hey, thanks for your time, Uncle Bob. Appreciate it.
Okay, so thanks for calling in, Another Joe. Good talking to you. And here we are, the end of our least favorite day of the week, Friday. That means the real Joe Cruz and I got to suffer through 2 more days and up until 1600 on Monday when we're back on the air with Tall Tales. I'm so anxious. We'll make it. See you then.